Okay, so we are recording. Good afternoon, Rebels. Good to see you. Tell me what brings you in here today.
Hi, Kimberly. I have a lot on my mind right now about things that I want to achieve in my life. And one of them is I have this goal that I tried to make this year that I really wanted to make more friends. And I'm finding the pursuit to be a lot more challenging than I anticipated. And I don't know, it's just so bizarre because I wouldn't say I was popular growing up or anything of that sort, but I was able to, I'm a very outgoing, bubbly person, so I tend to form connections with people pretty quickly. And I find a lot of joy in meeting new people and trying to make them feel comfortable or safe or providing a basis of friendship. But there's this feeling of exhaustion about making friends because I think I'm starting to realize a lot of the relationships I've had in the past have not been an equal balance.
Mm.
So the idea of making more or pursuing another just sounds like a burden instead of something that's meant to help me. So I don't know, it's just so interesting because I'm feeling this gap in my life of relationships that I can find those relational nutrients from and feel this sense of like a battery being powered up. I just feel there's moments where I'm very lonely. Like I've already reached out to the people in my network and they're not providing that sense of relationship that I'm missing. But to meet somebody else also feels like, oh, it's another person that I'm gonna have to listen to their problems and provide them support when I feel like I'm running on nothing. I've got low battery myself.
Right, right.
So,
Um, so you feel discouraged that you haven't been able to find um, more friends at this stage of your life.
yeah, like I and I don't know if that's a reflection of me too. Like I
Mm.
look around and I see a lot of people have these big networks of friends and they're going out and doing what 24-year-olds commonly do. They go to the club or they go out in the morning, they have brunch together. They People are such social beings making these sometimes they go on trips together. They're making these memories and I was like, this is what it's all about being 24. And I don't have that source. And it's so interesting because growing up, out of all my siblings, I felt like I had a pretty good friend group. My sister struggled and so did my brother. They're just more introverted than I'm actually an introvert, but they were even more so introverted. So I didn't feel like this was something I struggled in. But then I got to college and I was starting to feel this sense of relationship burnout that I just started one by one cutting people out in my life that I realized were taking this big emotional toll on me because I was giving, 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 and it did not fill my battery at all. And not to say that I need to gain something from every relationship I have. And I know that there's seasons of it too, that there's seasons where someone needs to lean on you more than you're leaning on them. But I just realized when I got to college, when I actually met other more mature individuals, that I did not have that really mature friendships or really genuine relationships. And that was kind of a shock to me because now I realized I had this skill at very superficial relationships or one-sided ones. And so I wasn't getting this any benefit, any reciprocal, like anything that was reciprocal. So I don't know. I made the decision to just cut them out, and I felt so much better. I had this freedom and this sense of like I wasn't taking on everybody else's problems and emotions and being that support for so many people. It brought a sense of peace that I hadn't experienced in a while. But now, in my pursuit of protecting my peace, I think I've made myself very isolated.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. So you are you're feeling a little bit confused of because you're feeling the isolation and you're feeling the lack of community at this stage of your life. But you want deeper, more meaningful friendships. You're not looking for more or collecting a bunch of friends. You're looking for deep, meaningful friendships.
Exactly. I don't want, I'm not trying to increase numbers. Like,
Right.
especially in social media, it kind of becomes this idea of, let me look how many followers I got. And I
Right.
see people interacting there, and I wonder, I'm like, how many of those are actually people that check up on you and care for you and root for your successes? And yeah, I'm not interested in just the superficial or the one-sided, I should say more so. Like, I don't know. I have this, I think sometimes it's my fault and sometimes it's the people that I attract. Sometimes I feel like the personalities like I was used to in high school. I was so nervous about being alone. It was okay to be around people who constantly used me or
Mm.
relied on me because I wasn't alone anymore.
Right.
But now I've reached that maturity where I was like, "Ugh, you are a suck on my energy. You are a like a vacuum to it." And it does not make me feel good to be around you ever, even like, through your highs and lows. I don't feel like you support me. So, but I think people are meant to be social. And so it's just, I don't know, it feels like I'm like, I'm doing something wrong. And I'm very lucky because I have this extensive Italian family. They are all up in my business and they're very involved in my life. So it's not to say that I am alone, but, and I also have a boyfriend. I've had this relationship since I was in high school. We've been dating for, I want to say it was 5, almost 6 years now. So it's a really strong bond and relationship, and I can rely on him, but even he has a friend group.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's like it's come to my attention because when he goes to hang out with his friends, as he totally should, I sit there alone and I go, what am I doing? And I love alone time. So sometimes I will utilize it and I'll be like, oh, I get to read my book right now. I get to do this. But I get lonely and I want to go out. I want to go check out the new restaurant with friends, and it feels like sometimes I'm a burden on those around me because I'm constantly leaning on them right now for that social support.
Right.
And sometimes that support that they offer is not what I'm looking for. So it's like it's great to have that relationship with my boyfriend and it's great to have that relationship with my family, but sometimes I miss that girl friendship.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't know, it's just I'm starting to think I'm like maybe it's my fault.
Hmm. So it sounds like you have um, a very good relationship with your family and that you guys are
Hmm.
tight as a family and that you see them as a great support to you in your life and someone that and a family that you can trust and rely on. And you have that, sounds like also with a boyfriend that you very much um, trust, and that's a very good relationship and something positive. But
Yeah.
but what is missing are the girlfriends or the peers of people your age that you're missing at this stage right now. Uh, Tell me, what have you mentioned earlier um, of all the things that you've done or what you think um, people your age do for fun or socially. Tell me what you've done. What are some things that have made like that you've done that have become exhausting? What are some tell me more about what those things have been that you've done.
Yeah, I think when I look back and I think about It's just interesting. When I look at what I've done so far in life, where I went to high school and then I went to college and then I went straight into work at the education system.
Okay.
And that was interesting because a lot of my friends went a different route, or the people I did have, that I was starting to form relationships in college, you just grow apart and life kind of comes in the way. And if you don't make an effort, those relationships don't stay alive. And then I needed to protect my peace because I was my work was very challenging and it was very exhausting and I was struggling at where I was working. And so I was giving a lot to the kids I was working with. So my ability to give to others decreased significantly. So I became very isolated because when I'm exhausted, my recharge is finding alone time
Right.
and protecting my peace and just finding me again. But then I got to my master's program where I just started. And it's really cool because it's giving me this opportunity to meet so many individuals who are working towards a similar goal as I am. And I'm starting to form these relationships again. But even here, it's hard to make friends because it's an online program.
Right.
So it does feel like I'm there's conversation happening and sometimes it gets deep or it's meaningful or I really leave the conversation like that was so cool. I needed that. And that's what made me realize I'm like, gosh, there is a missing of connection in my day-to-day life because these conversations give me so much joy. I actually feel like a human when I am finding things to talk about, get my mind moving and I can hear from other people. It's just it's so much fun. But even these relationships have a boundary, have a stop to them. So when I see online, in my view, I don't have kids. I don't have a 9 to 5 right now. I don't have these big other responsibilities and life events in the way. I feel like developmentally, this is the time where I'm supposed to screw around and have fun and make memories. There's this pressure that 20-year-olds are supposed to be doing whatever and like making memories and making life meaningful and every day just using it while you have this body, while you have this time, while you have this freedom and energy. And so I look at myself like, whoa, when my boyfriend's busy and my family's doing their things, I I miss out. I'm missing out. There's so much that I could be doing and I have no one to do it with, so I don't do it alone. And then so I don't end up doing it at all. And yeah, I don't know what upsets me more, the idea that there's this lack of relationship or this missed opportunities. I don't know which is more
Right.
troubling.
Right. Um, tell me, tell me what activities, uh, both that you've done in the past or what you've seen online that seems like those are the things I want to do.
Mm,
Tell me tell me what your thoughts have been, or when you see somebody do something, or maybe even an activity back in high school or in college that you did where you were just having like a lot of fun and finding those like moments where you're like, you're in the lane. Like this is or that could be something in the past or something that you see online that people are doing or experiencing where you're like, gosh, that that's something that I would want. That speaks to
mm.
me.
Honestly, when I look at the activities, it's anything that feels like a memory. And I know that sounds kind of vague, but I can't tell you. When I think back to my last year of life, it is difficult for me to pinpoint. So I'm almost done being 24. I turned 25 in May. So even if I go back to being 23. If I had to tell you what being 23 was like, all I can think about is, well, I know I was dating, I know I was with my family, and I know I was working. Like, it's difficult for me to be like, this really cool thing happened in this year of my life. Oh, I went on this trip, or I hiked this trail, or I really saw this, like, and that makes me depressed. Like it is so it feels like a waste of life. And I know that there were good moments. I know that there was moments that must have felt like that was a really good day. But I feel like I had a lot of the same good days of like maybe I just didn't have a problem or I had a really great day with my boyfriend, which I usually do, but I'm just scared that I'm going to look back at my 20s and be like you said before, to answer your question, if I was gonna like actually look at the things, it's just pictures of moments I feel like captured that people can look back on and reminisce. I don't feel like I can look back at me being 23 and I was like, wow, it was so fun to be this age because of this and because I went on this trip, I met this person, my life changed for right here, or it doesn't need to be these big vacations, but sometimes it's just yeah, it's in the memories you make. I remember like I can tell you so many memories of high school. And just because of when I was with my friends, I could see the way that our lives impacted each other.
Mhm.
And so we wouldn't have to go make these big plans. We were high schoolers. We weren't going anywhere, but we would walk the park and something hilarious would happen or something new and or we would take a couple photos and I can look at that photo and remember that was such a good beach bonfire day. And I remember like that feeling of being there. That's what it means to live in
Mm.
my mind. And I feel like I'm missing the point of living. I feel like I'm going through the motions.
Right. So you've recognized that in the day to day, you have foundationally have some very good things in your life. In the day to day, family, some stability with your family and your boyfriend, but that the community of friendships and the meanings for those things that you felt like you used to have in high school, um, but at the same time, those memories were meaningful to you looking back, but they were also with people that you recognize didn't necessarily hold your same values necessarily, that you were with them doing things that were memorable, but that later you identified as um, uh, that exhausted you.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to
Mm,
I want to go back to something that you mentioned because you mentioned walk in the park and when I prompted you with that question with so tell me about those activities. The things that your first couple things that you mentioned were taking hikes
mm-hmm.
and trips, like taking a trip or some sort of adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, tell me some things in your area or um, clubs or places in your around where you live where there are hikes or places you would like to go to see. Is there something in a place in particular, or are there hikes or trails around where you're at, or a beach or a park that you've wanted to go?
Well, honestly, I've kind of done what you're suggesting, where I've looked at situations or activities that I remember brought me joy.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mentioned hikes. Another thing that I was really into theater.
Okay.
So I tried to look up in my environment like theater groups that I or just shows to go see. And I that those always brought me like great memories. So just seeing local theater of from my high school or just programs I used to be a part of. I was trying to look into, I was like, maybe I should be a part of it again, or book clubs. I love to read.
Okay.
So I tried to form things online, but if I'm being honest with you, there's this fear that I am going in it alone, and I don't know what I'm hoping to get out of it.
Right.
Because as I've told you, I don't know, you've made me realize I came in here thinking I was going to talk about wanting to find friends, but then I realize it's kind of an issue of also that without friends, I feel like I'm missing out on life, like what it means to live. And so when I feel motivated, so I get out there and I experience life, I feel this motivation to go to these places or to be more involved in my community.
Right.
But there is this fear that I have as well that I'm going to get more relationships that are draining, that are exhausting. So I kind of go at what cost?
Right.
So like, do I continue to protect my peace and just stick with the people I have,
Right.
but I also go through the motions? Or do I take a chance on my own, which is kind of frightful, and then get involved in these communities and hope that I find more meaningful connections with people too?
So I'm wondering if there's a way to, I'm wondering if there's a way to look at this a little differently. So rather than seeing it as door one A or door B and these two different paths, rather than saying, I'm just wondering if there's a way to say, I've identified some if I put myself out there and I do these activities and I meet new people, then I'm might there's going to be a risk that I'm going to be having friends that are exhausting that are going to take my peace. And I also recognize I want to do activities because I think these things are meaningful in life, of a life well lived.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than seeing these two things, is there a way that you could see that you're going to experiment? That this is not a season, typically seasons of transition, basically, you're in a season of transition. Your 20s are a season of transition. Um, so they say, so I've experienced. But is there a way to see this as like you're experimenting? Like I'm going to, rather than going all the distance of saying the new friends are going to make are going to drain me. Is there a way to see this as I'm going to try this club or I'm going to put myself out there with this new theater group, or maybe I'll audition for something, or I will join a book club, or I will volunteer at this thing, and then I'll just see how I feel in a couple months. And and you seem to have enough wisdom to know when people are draining of you.
Hmm. Yeah, from my
Like
past experience.
from your past experience, it seems like you know yourself well enough to know when that happens, and you have your already this ebb and flow of when you need to spend quiet time and spend more time reading at your home. So I just wonder if I'm just wondering for because I want to be mindful of our time, and I'm wondering for our next session, and maybe you even have some ideas right now
Hmm.
of identifying some clubs or groups or hobbies or trails or and pick one thing before our next session that you're just going to see about. You're just going to show up for and see. And I would encourage you to suspend having all the answers of how that plays out. Like suspend thinking you're going to find your best friend or you're going to find your people or your future bridesmaids in that like one thing rather than going all the distance.
Mm.
Say, I'm going to experiment. I'm in this new season. I'm going to experiment. And because there's a chance you might meet somebody that is going to introduce you to something that you haven't heard of that you're going to try. That might lead you down the pickleball route. You're like, I never saw myself as a pickleball player, but maybe that is your future. No, I'm just saying, but maybe by having those lists of a few things that you already know that you like that bring you joy, and just to experiment with it rather than feeling like you have to have that whole community already there for you.
Mm.
You're seeing this next. season, 6 months, 3 months, as I'm experimenting with the things that bring me tremendous meaning in my life because I want a meaningful life. You know that. You know what your values are for that.
Mm.
And maybe you're just you're going to be the season of experimenting on what that is. Does that
Yeah.
does that resonate?
Yeah, I think you're making me realize that what I've been doing before just hasn't been working. So I might owe it to myself to try something new if I want something new.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I think that I think that you know that about I think that that's in you that you're going to find that.
I might need some help though.
Well, I look forward to our next session. I will be here for you.
Thanks, Kimberly. I'll see you next week.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, coolio. Do you want to start on some feedback?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I just had it. Okay, okay. One or two areas of strength from the session. I feel like your statements were so interesting because I really I really thought I knew going in. I was like, it's the friendships, and I really want to investigate this. I really thought it was going to go one way. And then you made me realize I was like, oh, and I really went down a path that I didn't realize before because of the way that your questions were placed and what they were. It did make me realize a bigger picture of stuff going on, which I think is really cool for a counselor to be able to do because it's like someone like me, I analyze everything. So I really was like, I got a handle on this. I just want to talk it out. But I was like, I don't know what I was taught. I didn't know that's where this was going with me. But so I like, because I really did think I was like, this emphasis on friendship, but I'm realizing like, oh, I'm feeling like my life is kind of just passing me by. And I was
Hmm.
like, that's a way bigger issue than, and it's bugging me. So that was cool. I feel like you really gave a space for us to investigate that. And I, with your questions, I feel like without being like, you need to think about this instead, you kind of led me there. So
That's good.
that was a really good, like, it was a really good path. I feel like you took us on. And I also felt like your even just your minimal encouragers, you were matching my is it affect? Like
Yeah.
my the
Yeah.
emotion
Yeah.
without being like interruptive or anything. If I was like, "Can you believe this?" You were kind of like, "Yeah, yeah, like I'm right here." So, because I'm very expressive. So that felt really nice to be like, "Okay, she's getting it. She's with me." So I felt very seen as like a client.
Oh, that's good.
One or two areas of growth. Oh gosh, this one's hard. I think I think while some of those questions were like so like were really cool because they led us onto a pathway and I got to talk about more of my emotions. There was like one aspect I was like, "Oh, I wish I got to talk. I feel like I had a little bit more to give of like to investigate.
Yeah.
And I went from emotion to cognitive
Okay.
because I was thinking I was like, "Oh, I need to answer that question. And how do I answer that question?"
Okay.
Versus I was like, "I'm really feeling this way."
Right.
So
Right.
but it's hard because I think you were trying to get to the root of the problem in the limited time.
Yeah. And also, I think I also felt like she's already I mean, after rephrasing, and I was debating like now looking back, I could have kept you in your feeling longer, but I felt like you had already had identified how you felt.
That's true too. Like I don't
It was
know if
like I that's where I was really debating like is this the time where we stay in that feeling of loneliness in these moments or feeling like you're missing out? Like you were able to identify very clearly the specific space in your life
hmm
and were able to articulate how you were feeling. So, but I do think that I needed to keep you there longer.
it's so interesting you picked up on. I'm very like I like to name my feelings and that's after I sit with them for a long time. And sometimes I feel like I do bring them up because I'm like, does that make sense? Like I kind of gauge your reaction too. And then, but they're also still, yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
liked some of your questions made me think otherwise. Like I told you, I felt like I had a handle and I was like, whoa, this is a whole new path.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
like that we're going down this because now I'm realizing there's things I didn't see.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think there's just one instance I think I felt it, which where
Yeah.
I felt a shift where I was like, okay, wait,
Right.
let me think about answering her question.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay,
And
let me go back
and
to
I needed to keep you there longer. Yeah.
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 It's a hard balance though. Like
A hard
you were
balance.
doing a
But
really good
yes.
job. I think it might have been like when it was like the second or the third question
Yeah.
where I was like, okay, like I feel like I'm at this point I'm like answering a question when I was like I wanted to investigate something that I just discovered a little bit longer.
Right. Right. Right.
It was so cool though. Like I think I that was a very challenging. I did not realize how challenging. I feel like I jumped a lot for you. And
No, no. And honestly for me, one of the things that and all these things that I find myself having to put in a check is that countertransference. Like even when you said your birthday is in May and you're going to be 25, I'm like, that's my daughter's birthday is in May. She's going to be 25. Like
oh
it's
my gosh,
it's hard for me not to like go into like
mom mode.
and know like, oh, I remember what I did and the decisions I made at that stage of my life because I wanted community. I moved out of town. I moved out of San Clemente and out of my parents' house to Newport
Yeah.
to be a part of a specific group that was forming outside of a church in Newport. Like I distinctly so, and I've mentioned that with my kids as my youngest just graduated from college and he's back in the house and they're forming community. This is like you've identified and be able to verbalize what I'm living in real time with my kids.
Oh yeah. It's so
So I
interesting.
immediately was like, I got introduced Rebel to my daughter.
You're like,
Like,
I got just the friend for you. You're like,
I know, seriously. I keep thinking, so it is very interesting. Um, this isn't the only time this has happened. This is the thing that every now and then I go, oh, where you, if you were like just a friend and not a client, I would immediately say, oh, here's my daughter's number, or I'm going to invite you over for dinner so you can meet my daughter and her fiance, and
hmm.
try to because I know
You're
that,
very jump in. Like, let me
yeah,
hand. Yeah.
and there's also like that is the discomfort of. And which is why I keep encouraging people like, what do you like? Go try those things and you'll probably find your people. Like, um, if it's theater, like go check it out. If it's my son, he misses playing basketball. I'm like, you gotta
Yeah.
find like a men, like you gotta go to a gym that has like a pickup game. You guys need to just show up. And I'm watching my kids and their friends like randomly going to this other town to start playing pickleball. And they want to none of them had pickleball experience, but it is the leveling playing field for people who are non-athletes and those who are athletes
Yeah. To
and
be competitive, but not.
social,
Yep.
So it's just been interesting because you had mentioned that. So um anyway,
Yeah.
this is longer than our feedback, but I just
But overall, the experience it was really good. I
okay.
really felt like you were like a well-round counselor because you were taking me on a path that I wasn't expecting. It didn't feel like you were checking off skills, even though I know that's part of our assignment. It felt like you were
Yeah,
right there with me.
good,
So that was really cool.
good. Well, I love an expressive client, so
Oh, perfect, perfect. We're a good pair
we're
then.
a good match, Rebel. All right, well, great job. I'm going to stop the recording
Sounds
and
good.